1, 2, 3, and the columns and the rows always are considered within your range. So it doesn't matter whether it's A, B, C, D in terms of if you've got columns here or not. It always starts with column 1 wherever you've started your highlighting for your range. So this is column 1 for me, this is column 2, and this is column 3. So we want column 3 in this case. Let's close the parentheses, hit enter, and there we have it. So that's just quickly highlight that one where they intersect there. It's going to return a value from this middle section, and it is searching for 6 rows down and 3 rows across, and it then pulls up that value for me there, which is that 2995. So now let's look at the match function, and let's see what happens when I try and match the single family home there, which is my search term, inside of this array of or range of different properties there. And what I'm doing is I'm skipping the header row there, so that this property, the size of this, the number of rows in this, and this is a very important point actually, the number of rows inside of my search range matches the number of rows inside of my index range where I want to return the answer from. So it starts with row 1 in the same place as the row 1, the same number of rows as the index. So fill that in, it's going to be an exact match, so 0 at the end there. And there's my 6, so that gives me the 6 down there that I was looking for. So we need to lock that range. Let's copy that now. So I go inside there, miss out the equals at the front there, but just copy the match section, and we'll drop that there in there instead of the 6, and we'll just lock that range as well. And if I hit enter now, it's still giving me the 2995, so that's promising. However, if I now change to townhouse 1, you'll see that the rent now changes and it would move up to this one here. So this is my new one now, the 2000. So this time we'll do a match again, and we want to match whatever attribute here I specified in this top row here, so the column headings. And again, it's really important that the number of columns here matches the number of columns inside of my index range. So we'll lock that, and we'll go 0 to make an exact match, and there's my 3. So it's looked for rent month, and it's 1, 2, it's in the 3rd position of that array there, of that range. So again, what we'll do is we'll copy that index match, and you don't need to do all this copying. Once you're used to this, you can just do this all in one go. We'll see that in a moment. We'll click enter, and let me just delete those so that they're not confusing you. So I've added some conditional formatting here, and now we can actually just change these values here and just see really what's happening. So if I change to the apartment 4, then we'll see that it's now picking out the rent month for that. So it finds the apartment 4, that gives it the reference there for how many rows to come down, and it looks for rent month, and it finds that up there, and that tells me how many columns to come across. And so if we chose number of bedrooms we want, then it gives me 2, which is the match there. So bedrooms is the first column, and then therefore it returns the value inside of column 1 of the index area. So you can see here, if I double click, the orange there is the index area, and it's searching inside the blue for how far down to go, and it's searching inside the dark blue for how far across to go, and then where they intersect, which is this one here, is that value, that's the one it returns. So that's it, that's all there is to the index match. Super simple. So let me say why it's worth learning. So we talked about it being more flexible. So it's not restricted to returning data to the right. So VLOOKUP looks in one column, returns data to the right. And the data, as we'll see in example 3, actually doesn't even have to be arranged neatly or adjoined. So that gives you a lot of flexibility. And it doesn't ever give you the wrong answer if you insert columns. So let's take a look now quickly. We want to do the same calculation. We want to look for the same index match. We're going to search for, say, single family home 2. And we're going to look for the square footage this time. And what we'll do is we'll see that if we'll do it all in one go as well now. Index. So again, we're going to highlight, this is the data we want to return values from. We're going to match, and we're going to match single family home, and this time we're going to look over here. It doesn't matter that it's to the right, that's the point here. Match again of the square foot, and we'll look for that up here. Again, an exact match. So it's index, specify the range, an inner match to tell me how many rows down to go, a next match to tell me how many columns across to go, which is that one there, and then that gives me my answer. So the square footage for the single family home 2 is the 3200, which is that one there. And that is the index match. That's the index match. Now one last thing, just to really prove to you that it doesn't matter where these things are. In fact, let's even move this down so it's not the same level. So here's my table of data I want to return values from. These are my rows. These are my column headings, and you can see that I've just moved them, completely disjoined them from the actual data table. Now what's very important is that they're still the same size, so that the number of rows here matches how many rows are in my index. If that wasn't the case, and if I had more rows here and I found it, it would give me an out of bounds range. So we have to be very careful that we have the same number of rows here as in here, and likewise the same number of columns as columns in here. And then let's say I'm searching for, again, single family home 2 and rent. Let's do the rent. Then we're going to do an index, and we'll look in here. Then we're going to do a match. I'm going to search for the single family home 2, and we're going to look over here, and you see it doesn't matter now, but I'm searching over here, and we're going to match the rent month, and again we'll look over here, so it's totally separate from the actual index match table, and close that parentheses, and there we go, it's now found. So it's, if I double click again, just give you the right answer there, 2995. What it's done is it's searching in here, it's going to return a value from here, that's our range. It's matching single family home in this list over here and telling me how far I go down here, and that corresponds to how far then I give my value back on the index. And then it searches inside the column headings here, and it tells me how far across to go, which is how many columns across to go. And like I said, it works because if I just drag these back over here, they match up with the table, and therefore it's going back to the original index match that I had. So that is the index match. It's a super useful function and absolutely worth investing the time just to practice. So set up some tables like this, some small little tables, and just go and try it out. Don't worry if you make mistakes, it gives you errors. Just try it nice and simple first, like the example we did at the beginning of this lesson, and then gradually just make things a little more tricky for yourself. Move those, separate out all those ranges, try the leftward lookup, that kind of thing, and then see if you can really get the hang of this formula. It's definitely worth investing that time into. Okay folks, that's all on that, so thanks for watching.